Department of Interior halts special treatment for wind energy. What it means. Imagine a future where the pursuit of renewable energy doesn't come at the expense of local communities, wildlife, or the stability of our power grid. But here's where it gets controversial. The Department of the Interior has just announced a major shift in its approach to wind energy development, one that could fundamentally change the way we think about renewable energy in America. Today, U.S. Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum unveiled 4 key policy measures designed to advance President Donald J. Trump's vision for affordable, reliable energy development. At the heart of this new approach is a commitment to ending preferential treatment for unreliable energy sources, such as wind power. This means that the Department of the Interior will be re-evaluating its policies on onshore wind development on federal lands and putting a halt to future offshore wind lease sales. But what does this mean for the future of renewable energy in America? And this is the part most people miss. The department will also be conducting a thorough study on the impact of wind turbines on migratory bird populations, a move that could have significant implications for the way we develop wind energy in the future. These changes are all part of a broader effort to ensure that energy development in America is guided by a commitment to affordability, reliability, and accountability. As Secretary Burgum noted, these policy changes represent a common-sense approach to energy that puts Americans' interests first, leveling the playing field in permitting supports energy development that's reliable, affordable, and built to last. We're also making sure tribes and local communities have a real seat at the table. This move is about responsible energy growth that works for every American. So what exactly do these policy changes entail? For starters, the Department of the Interior will be ending preferential treatment for wind projects through Secretary's Order No. 3437, which directs the department to identify and remove policies that favor unreliable energy sources like wind. The order also calls for a review of energy supply chains controlled by foreign rivals and a report on recommended reforms to be submitted to the president. But here's the thing. This move is likely to be controversial, with some arguing that it will hinder the development of renewable energy in America. Others will argue that it's a necessary step to ensure that energy development is guided by a commitment to affordability and reliability. And this is the question we want to hear from you on. Do you think the Department of the Interior's new approach to wind energy development is a step in the right direction? Or a misguided attempt to undermine the growth of renewable energy in America? The department will also be restoring Congress's mandate to consider all uses of public lands and waters equally, which means balancing energy development with other important uses like recreation and grazing. This could have significant implications for the way we develop wind energy on federal lands and raises important questions about the role of local communities in shaping energy policy. Additionally, the department will be enhancing stakeholder engagement for offshore wind development, which means strengthening guidance to ensure more meaningful consultation with tribes, the fishing industry, and coastal towns. This is a critical move, given the disproportionate impacts that offshore wind development can have on these stakeholders. Finally, the department will be reviewing the consequences of developing wind turbines on migratory birds, which could have significant implications for the way we develop wind energy in the future. As we move forward, it's clear that the development of wind energy will be shaped by a complex array of factors, from local community concerns to environmental impacts. But one thing is certain. The Department of the Interior's new approach to wind energy development is a major shift that will have far-reaching implications for the future of renewable energy in America. So, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the Department of the Interior's new approach to wind energy development? Do you think it's a step in the right direction or a misguided attempt to undermine the growth of renewable energy in America? Let us know in the comments. U.S. government withdraws all offshore wind energy areas. What's next for renewable energy? Imagine a future where the United States, once a pioneer in offshore wind energy, suddenly hits the brakes on its ambitious plans to harness the power of the ocean winds. This is exactly what's happening, and it's sending shockwaves throughout the renewable energy industry. The U.S. Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM, has made a stunning decision to rescind and de-designate all wind energy areas, WEAs, on the US Outer Continental Shelf, OCS. But here's where it gets controversial. This move could have far-reaching consequences for the country's energy strategy, the environment, and the economy. The WEAs, which covered over 3.5 million acres of federal waters, were previously identified as suitable for wind energy development. The areas spanned across the Gulf of America, Gulf of Maine, the New York Bight, California, Oregon, and the Central Atlantic. By rescinding these areas, BOEM is essentially ending the federal practice of designating large areas of the OCS for speculative wind development. But what does this mean for the future of offshore wind energy in the U.S.? And this is the part most people miss. The decision comes on the heels of a presidential memorandum issued on January 20, 2025, which temporarily withdrew all areas on the OCS from offshore wind leasing and ordered a review of the federal government's leasing and permitting practices for wind projects. The Interior Secretary's Order 3437, issued on July 29, further complicates the situation by ending preferential treatment for unreliable, foreign-controlled energy sources in department decision-making. The U.S. offshore renewable energy industry organization Oceantic Network has released a statement expressing concern that the latest directives from the Department of the Interior (DOI) will directly impact the U.S. all-of-the-above energy strategy and ultimately consumer bills. The Department of Interior's latest directives continue a false narrative on an established American industry that will prevent an important source of baseload power generation from reaching the grid when ratepayers are already feeling the effects of rising electricity prices, said Stephanie Franker, SVP of Communications External Affairs at Oceantic Network. This will result in even higher energy costs, increased blackouts, job loss, and billions of dollars in stranded investments, further delaying shovel-ready projects supported by a domestic, heavy manufacturing supply chain renaissance that spans 40 states. Crippling affordable and reliable wind energy makes no economic sense and undermines the administration's all-of-the-above energy strategy. We urge the department to adopt policies which put all sources of American energy on an even playing field. As the debate unfolds, we can't help but ask, what's the real motivation behind this decision? Is it a genuine concern for the environment, or is it a calculated move to favor other energy sources? The answer remains unclear. But one thing is certain. The future of offshore wind energy in the U.S. hangs in the balance. We want to hear from you. Do you think the U.S. government's decision to rescind the wind energy areas is a step in the right direction, or a misguided move that will have severe consequences for the environment and the economy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Trump admin halts offshore wind projects. Impact on Morro Bay beyond. A political storm is brewing over America's coastlines, and it's not just about the weather. In a move that's reigniting debates over energy policy and local livelihoods, the Trump administration has abruptly withdrawn federal approval for millions of acres of ocean territory once earmarked for offshore wind projects. For communities like Morro Bay, California, where fishermen have long warned of threats to their industry, this decision feels like a hard-won victory. This isn't just about wind turbines. It's about stealing our fishing grounds and our way of life, explains Tom Hafer, a veteran Morro Bay fisherman. They need to back off. California doesn't want this. But here's where it gets controversial. The Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM, has now de-designated a staggering 3.5 million acres of federal waters across 7 regions, including the Gulf of Maine, New York Bight, and California. To put this in perspective, that's an area larger than Connecticut and Rhode Island combined, all stripped of their potential for wind energy development. Yet in Morro Bay, 3 active offshore wind leases remain untouched, sparking confusion over why some projects survive while others vanish. The American Clean Power Association representing the companies behind these leases, fired back with a sharp critique. This isn't just about wind energy, it's about whether the government can suddenly upend years of planning and private investment, a spokesperson argued. At a time when California faces blackouts and rising energy costs, offshore wind offers affordable power, thousands of jobs, and a stable grid. This decision sets a dangerous precedent for all infrastructure projects. And this is the part most people miss. The battle is far from over. React Alliance, a vocal opponent of offshore wind, claims the administration's move is merely the first skirmish in a larger war. Don't mistake this for a permanent solution, warns Mandy Davis, the group's president. These corporations won't walk away quietly. We need every concerned citizen to join this fight. Public pressure is the only language they understand. But let's confront the elephant in the room. Is this a genuine win for coastal communities, or a short-sighted blow to clean energy progress? Should local industries like fishing always take priority over national climate goals? And what happens when the next administration reverses course? Again? Sound off below. Do you side with the fishermen fighting for their livelihoods, or the developers pushing for a greener grid? Can these interests ever coexist, or is this a zero-sum game? Your opinion could shape the next chapter of this high-stakes debate.